I have to ask for your reaction to what you've just heard from former President Donald Trump, his track record in politics, but also association with misinformation, which is what we are here to talk about.
Well, it was fascinating to listen to former president, and I can agree with him in one thing, that we have a sunny and beautiful day, also here in San Francisco. The other things I cannot comment because this is justice which is doing the job, and we have never commented on individual cases. On your question, well, I think that when Mr. Trump was the president, we saw a very big tendency for enabling of disinformation to influence the public opinion. I don't want to say that he himself was doing it. I don't want to dare to say that. But coming back to the years of his presidency, we saw that the social media were used for manipulation of the public opinion more than before.
We have elections in this country this year. You have elections much sooner across the European Union. What was the conclusion you've reached meeting with the heads of those very important technology and social media companies in the last 48 hours?
It was very interesting to meet all of them. Still today I will meet Mr. Zuckerberg. Well, I shared with them my feedback and information which I collected in the member states, because I traveled to more than half of the member states, alerting the representatives of the states and many others about the need to protect the electoral campaign against manipulation and abuse of technologies. So this was my message here, that first of all, I wanted to alert them to maybe increase the preparedness for the elections, but it's still several days only before the elections, maybe to explain why these elections are important. The people of the European Union are deciding on who will be among those 720 members of the parliament who will have one of the first tasks to appoint or nominate or endorse the president of the Commission. And President of the European Commission, it's the person which has the phone number which Henry Kissinger always wanted to have in the EU. So it's incredibly important. And we don't want Vladimir Putin or some other hostile powers to meddle into these elections. And of course, how to do this meddling better than with the use.
So, for example, you're going to meet with Mr. Zuckerberg later today. There are 450 million people almost across the EU. And so many of them will use a Meta product, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. They have been issuing threat reports. We've covered them on this program. And they argue that the industry's current defenses, particularly in the context of malicious or content or misinformation generated by generative AI, they believe they have the sufficient tools and defenses. Are you convinced of that?
Well, they know well that in the EU we have the legally binding set of rules, which is the Digital Services Act, which wants them to do, I am simplifying incredibly, two things. First of all, to guarantee that there is no crime spread and amplified by their networks. Here I speak about hate speech, including anti-Semitism, different kind of hate speeches against minorities, terrorist content, extremist content, and child pornography. The second thing is disinformation. And here we see that especially disinformation in combination with artificial intelligence or produced and amplified by artificial intelligence is exactly something which can endanger our electoral process. We want the elections to be the competition of real people, real visions, and chance for the voters to cast authentic, not manipulated vote. That's why the platforms who I spoke to yesterday, the CEOs, they explained to me what they have done regarding fact-checking, regarding removals of the illegal content, regarding labeling of AI production, And my message for them was yesterday, and also back to Europe for many other actors, is we have to do more to protect the electoral process.
Commissioner Jourová, one name we haven't discussed yet is Telegram. It's an interesting platform in the sense that you had mentioned Vladimir Putin and Russia. There is a growing concern about the spread of disinformation with Russian origins on that platform. Have you any specific findings or actions on how that has played a role in European affairs and the upcoming elections?
You have very good information. Telegram is an issue. And Vladimir Putin and other hostile actors are using all the platforms. But Telegram is a special case because this platform is not under the investigation of the European Commission, because they announced to us that they have only 42 million users. And the benchmark for the European Commission to act is 45 million users. So that's why we are now checking whether the figure is right. And in case in case we discover that this is more than 42 million, we will have to look deeply into how Telegram works. Because it's true that even the smaller platforms can do very dangerous job in several member states. And Telegram is especially active in the eastern member states where we have Russian-speaking minority.